Hi, ladies and gentlemen. This is Tony Holowitz. And as you embark on this training, the Selling with Act training, I think it's important for you to understand when I develop this training what I hope you take away from this. In essence, what are my goals for you? So, as I sat and worked through this training and the way I laid it out, I realized that there were different types of people that were going to be taking this training. And I think of different people I've worked with. And for example, right now, I'm working with a person named Steven who is fairly new at ACT and working with a company that has an established ACT database. And because of that, I have to try to help him understand the best way to approach ACT. And the best way to approach ACT in this training is first run through the fundamentals. Even if you have some experience with ACT, the fundamental part of this training will teach you things that will help you along the way. The next part of the training is customizing ACT. And even though I don't think you should really worry about customizing ACT, I think by looking at that, it will give you some ideas for ways you can make ACT better down the road. And I'd urge you to revisit the customizing ACT section. But most importantly is the selling with ACT. Because you've most likely been hired to do some kind of sales or marketing, you got to get right at it. And the selling with ACT training is really designed to help you do just that. It's trying to help you interpret what's in front of you and make some decisions about how to work with it. But more importantly than that, I think sometimes when you come into a large amount of data that you're not familiar with, it's like, what do I do with this? What is it? How do I work with all of this information? What are the goals here? So you'll come away from the training with questions, a lot of questions for your employer, for your boss, for the sales manager, that will teach you what you need to ask to make yourself better and more effective using the software. If you're working with an established ACT database and you're brand new to this training and you're trying to make the most of my training, what I'd recommend you do is, again, run through the fundamentals, because the fundamentals are never going to hurt you. And if you have some experience with ACT, it will fill in some gaps. And what I've tried to do with the fundamentals is also add things that even an experienced actor can come away. Then I would jump over to the selling with ACT, because I think that is the best thing you can learn. It's going to give you some ideas for really turning what you have in that database into a tool for selling. Next, get goals in writing. In other words, if you're an employee, ask the boss exactly what the goals are. What are we going to do with this information? What do you expect of me? What are the goals? Does the boss even know what the goals are? And this is sort of a sticking point for me. One of the questions I often ask is, does the boss use ACT software? Is the boss on board? Do they understand the purpose of using ACT? A lot of times you get people that ask for reports, but they don't even know what's in ACT or how it can possibly give them the information they're looking for if they don't lay out the groundwork to lead to the data that's going to give them that information. So an established ACT database, you really need to think it through. Get to know the contacts in there. Sometimes I walk into situations where the issues are greater than ACT. In other words, there's not a plan, there's no goals, there's nothing established. And this isn't a software problem. This is an issue of sitting down with the people in charge and saying, okay, what do we have to do with this? It might be a boss, it might be a sales manager. But if you're a boss or a sales manager and your company uses ACT, what I strongly recommend is this. Get intimate with the contacts. Understand who's in there. Try to understand what it is you want to do for yourself and for your staff, your employees. Because if you don't understand the information or the data, you're not going to be able to convey that back to them. So think first about, okay, we've got this big database with all kinds of contacts in there. How many prospects do we have in there? What are our goals for them? Do we want to call them? Do we want to email them? Do we want to write them letters? Do we want to go visit them? What are the goals for prospects? Next, you're going to talk about, okay, you've got a customer base or clients. How do you want to approach them? Your best prospects in many cases are your clients. So don't let those people slip through the cracks. I can't stress that enough. In fact, when you look at ACT, think about your clients and say, what do I want to do for them? And then I think if you come up with a plan for your clients, then the logical next step is to say, okay, we understand clients, we understand how we can work with them and act and track and make sure everything's being done. But now let's apply that to prospects. It's just, a horse of a different color, so to speak. Next, staff goals. Make sure you have goals. If you don't write this stuff down, I got to tell you something, it's just going to fail miserably. Because I can't tell you how many times I've gone into situations and people aren't really aware of what's expected of them. And a lot of times, if you lay out those expectations, in lieu of having to get reports on information, things just flow nicely. You don't have to worry about reports because things are happening in a way that fundamentally makes ACT work better for everyone because you're selling more, you're taking care of your customers, and at the end of the day, that's really the goal. Last but not least, once you start figuring that out, now you have other things that come up. You have things like, okay, now we have ACT right in front of us, but wait a minute. Not only do we want it right here in front of us, but maybe we want it on our phones. Maybe we want it on our tablets or iPads. How do we work with ACT? What are the other things we need to know? ACT is everywhere these days. And now the next logical step is make it available to people where they are and when they need it. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tony Holowitz. Thank you so very much for your time. If you have any questions, never hesitate to reach out to me, either by phone or send me an email. You have a wonderful day. Thank you.